Hello and welcome back to another episode of Real Estate Renovators. Real Estate Renovators, as Rex has kindly reminded me to introduce, is the business advisory show for real estate professionals. I'm Chanell and this is Rex. Your face looks a little different today.
I've had a great makeup artist today.
Have you?
I have.
You're looking a little less expressionless, Rexy.
And you put me on Botox lady. And I haven't slept properly either. I flew down from Sydney. So I've been in Sydney this week with that bond stuff that I'm doing. Some exciting things happening over there. So I've flown down just to see you.
Oh, how lovely of you. Would you say I'm your best friend?
Hell no.
What do you mean?
Moving on. How's your week been?
It's been good. It's been, life has been really busy. I think this whole year has just felt like a massive blur, like it's on fast forward, but it's all for really, really positive reasons. You know, new business venture.
New house?
New house, yes, very exciting. Just a lot of things happening in my world, but they're all super positive and super exciting. So I have nothing to complain about other than a little bit less sleep and a little bit of extra wrinkles. Well, you know, that's very good. Anyway, enough rambling on between you and I. Let's introduce our guest for today, Mr. Stasi Adgemis. Adgemis. Thank you so much, Stasi. I was waiting for the correction. I'll allow you to tell our audience a little bit about Stasi. Rex?
I'll get Stasi to get into his own story. I don't want to take his thunder from him. But for people that don't know, you've won Real Estate REIV Small Agency of the Year for the last, as long as I remember, from 2019 till now, including recently.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And you've got Sales Agent of the Year as well in your office,
one of our guys, Alec.
that you trained yourself.
Yeah.
But let's go back, rewind. Let's talk about your career. How did it all start?
Yeah, no, thanks. I think probably if I look back from where it first started, I was 19 years old. And
doesn't look like that long ago.
I know, it wasn't.
Who's your Botox lady?
Exactly, that's what you want to know. And yeah, I just started really energetic. I finished school at 17, started uni at 17, before going to obviously the whole real estate kind of thing. And then my parents were very much about, hey, look, you know, why don't you go get yourself some form of education? My dad's a real estate agent, so it's a second generation thing for me. Even though we don't work in the same business, I've always kind of had a passion for it. So,
and you've probably seen it growing up, what it's like.
Yeah, like on a Saturday, I used to put open boards out when I was like 10, 11 years old.
Did
and
you get paid?
Nah, never paid me. But I thought that was like so much fun, you know, compared to what I was doing at school. And then really like the whole thing for me just transitioned. Like I really wanted to do it. My parents were like, go do something at uni. So I got into RMIT, studied a degree in business, majored in marketing, and like try to fast forward that as quick as I could, and hit 19, got it, and then just said, okay, I want to get into real estate. So that was pretty much the start of it.
Your real estate career
Yeah.
at 19.
So I started as a cadet at a company, and literally just did all the things that you hear about juniors and cadets do, taking boards out.
Especially back then too.
Because I'm old. Which is a long time ago. No, but
What suburb did you start your career in, Stars?
I started in Doncaster East.
Okay, so you've always been a Doncaster.
Always been, yeah. I
grew up in Doncaster?
Grew up in Doncaster East, so I went to the biggest competitor, or competitor for me now, or then, but the biggest agency in the area.
And they were by far the biggest growing up.
Huge. And you've had a couple of guests that were part of there through here as well. So they were amazing. They were doing numbers that, you know, even now people can't believe how much volume they were selling. I think they had about 45% market share when I joined.
Wow.
So
and what was the catalyst for going out on your own and opening up Woodards?
Well, I worked so I started as a cadet, then I got a PA role for a guy. He was pretty much my mentor, taught me so much. And at the time he decided to open his own business and left. So when he did that, I kind of got pushed into sales. So I was 22 when I went into sales, and I'd been a PA for 2 years. And for me, that was probably the scariest part. Like I just finished my 21st birthday, turned 22, like the next year, and I'm in sales. And they're
what was your first listing like? Listing presentation?
No, well, I was doing a bit while I was as a PA. I was doing quite okay.
But with someone else.
Yeah, they were helping me a lot. So it was just learning. Like, you know, you're so naive at that time, but you're so enthusiastic. So you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. So you're just rolling as hard as you can, and the hours were huge. I look at what people put in now, and like I would eat dinner in the office every day, and I did that for 2 years straight. So
and the agency you were with were the biggest by far. Everyone that left that agency set up
Yeah, they all set their own
offices themselves.
yeah.
So you would have had such great hands-on experience from some of the best agents.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and that kind of like helped me grow because I was able to see what kind of mistakes people were making at a young age and thinking, okay, well look, if I did my own, probably wouldn't do this or that or whatever it might be. And then it came to the end of that year, and my sales manager at the time, who was also a small percentage owner of that business, had left and said, look, I'm going to maybe do something on my own. Would you do it with me? And yeah. Fast forward 10 years later, we're all
10
here.
10 years and you're still business partners.
Yeah. So, it's been fantastic. It's been a great ride.
Sorry.
There you go.
Ladies first.
No, it's okay. You go, because you're still on this topic. I'm going to change the topic slightly. So
okay.
you
What
go
was the
for it,
transition like from being a sales agent to an owner?
Yeah, super hard. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Because you go from being like, I think I was 23 when we opened, and you're a director of a business. Everyone's coming to you for problems, and you're 23, and the average staff or team member's 44.
Yeah.
And they're like, I could be your mum, or I could be your dad. So to gain that respect is really hard. And for any of the viewers that are kind of watching and trying to work out, okay, well, how do I go from this step to that step? That will be the biggest challenge when you're dealing with people.
There's nothing that can set you up for it either.
No, definitely
You just go in and you just really hope for the best. If you've had the right sort of training and mentorship from the start, that you can do it. But there's nothing that can prepare you to be a business owner, can there?
No, definitely not. And Lee, my business partner, obviously had been, a manager for so many big agents before they went open their own. So he was able to give me a lot of advice about what to say, what to do, what maybe not to do, where I made mistakes, because I made plenty of them. And that really helped craft me into probably who I am now. So he's been great and awesome mentor.
And still is, though.
Yeah.
Business partner more than a mentor now.
Yeah. Well, it started off as like almost like a mentorship, and now, the relationship just, kind of accelerated further and further, and then really into, full business partners, which is great.
Great. Now, Stas, a massive portion of the success of your business has come down to your recruitment strategy.
Yeah.
So I want you to start with talking us through what that strategy is for you to attract such high-performing agents, or not necessarily attract high-performing agents, but attracting agents and then basically training them to become high-performing agents. So what is the strategy behind this?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I always thought to myself, well, why would, a guy writing $1 million or 800,000 want to join my small business when they can go to the biggest competitor and they're going to say, oh, we'll give you more leads, or we'll give you... And so I understood pretty quickly, because I worked at a high-volume agency, what they were doing and what I needed to probably do to counter that. So it really started with getting the right talent. So as you guys know, and being in business as well, that you need people with the right attitude. So I always thought to myself, if I get the right attitude, I can train the rest, but it's all going to start from there. So I guess my biggest case study in our business is a guy who's just bought into our business, who's
Alec.
a partner, which
Can
is
I
Alec.
talk about Alec? Because I coincidentally go to the same gym as Alec does, and I see him often. But my understanding of Alec is Alec worked at two major competitors.
Yeah, he did.
Was told initially, it was told by both of them, you'll never make it in real estate.
Yeah, it's true.
You took him on
Yep.
with no real training, maybe a risk, some would say. But now, last year he won REIV Agent of the Year, and now he's in Perth, my understanding, to go for the Australian Agent of the Year. And that's from your training, because two other competitors and large agencies told him, you'll never make it.
Yeah, and I think that's, even to some of your viewers, I think that's the big thing that they've got to understand, that there will be roadblocks where people say you're not going to be good enough, but it's all going to come down to your attitude. So I knew his attitude was right. What he needed was time, and he needed proper training. Now, when you're a high volume agent, which, I worked in those businesses, I understand you cannot give the training that someone needs to get them from A to B in a shorter period of time. So, if they want to say, oh, look, in the next 2 years, I want to go out on my own, well, the reality is in a high volume business, you're going to be probably negotiating deals for that, agent that you're working for as a lead agent. Probably, I would say probably in the last 6 to 12 months of your time. And then they really teach you the listing part right at the end. So it's kind of like a strategy that they would normally use, because they want to hold on to you for as long as they can before letting you go. Yeah. So I knew that my model, if I was going to grow this business and it wasn't going to rely on me producing all the money in the business as well, that I had to kind of let that go, trust people and say, look, I'll show you the skill sets, but let's do an actual, proper training session on it.
Have you developed this?
Yeah, so you've been asking me about
I
that.
have been asking, because I hear some rumours from other people about your amazing training program.
Yeah, so
it may have run through Woodards now.
Yeah. So I help a few of the officers out with it as well. It really starts with just, I guess, working out who you want in your team, because as we said, that personnel is the most important thing. And if they've got the right attitude, then actually breaking down how their life journey as a real estate agent will look. So everyone that sits in our business has a 5-year plan, and it's the life plan and their business plan.
So how does that work?
Life plan, like personal life?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, so I take like a real involvement with everyone. So even Alec will have all his goals, his plan, everything in his office. So everyone's pretty like open about it, but some aren't, that's fine. But I probably have a really good understanding with each other where that's at as well. And my job's to kind of guide them through it.
Some synergies with a recent guest we just had on Stasi that does a really similar thing with his staff. You know, there's professional goals and then there's personal goals. And I think a lot of business owners forget about the personal goals, because your personal life really needs to be in check for you to be able to perform at work.
100%.
You know, your personal life will play a massive part in the success in your professional life. So you've got 2 separate plans for the team members. How do you start that? Like, what do you sort of sit down and do a goal planning session? Like,
yeah,
talk us through that.
We'll go out and we'll literally go out for a coffee, and we'll sit down in January and say, okay, well, you know, what do you want out of the next 5 years? And let's break that out into, you know, who do you see yourself being, Rex, in 5 years? And you go, okay, well, look, I see myself as being this and being that, and, you know, I'm going to have this and I want to have that. So how are we going to get you to that? And then we'll break that down from year 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
So you start the end in mind.
Always, yeah. Always start with your goal planning at the end and say, okay, where do I want to be in 5 years? So how can I help you get there? And look, there's guys in our office or girls that are talking, you know, I want to get married, I want to start a family. So do you put them on
Tinder and find them?
No, definitely not.
So you want to get married now that
the ones that say they want to get married are already in relationships. But, you know, we'll talk about that stuff and what, you know, I've been through all those stages, so I know what that costs in terms of, you know, if you want to get yourself into that position. I know what, you know, now that I've got a family of my own, I know what having a child, how that can restrict you in business as well. So, you know, I need to understand, well, what do you want to write? Because if you want to have a kid in year 1, you're not going to write those numbers in year 1 and 2, because your time that you've got is just not going to
translate
happen.
over.
So it's just understanding where they're at, and it gives me a really clear idea as a business owner where the long-termers are, and then probably where the people that maybe
But even knowing their goals will help you incentivize them. Like, you know, in a tough market, or if you're needing to motivate them, if you already know what their goals are, it's so much easier to then motivate and entice your staff when you know what their end goal in mind is. So it's a really good tool for a business owner to know what their team's goals are.
You got to be thinking, like, you know, we're at the end of Q1 this month, so everyone's starting to go, oh, look, I want to go to Europe, you know, especially the younger guys and girls. Oh, I want to go to Europe this year. Okay, well, you know, you've really got 3 months to hit your, you know, where you want to hit financially, so you can do that.
And you have these discussions. How frequently would you have
weekly?
These? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is it set down like?
No, it's more just like I'll pop into everyone's office or past their desk and then say, have you got 10 minutes? We'll have a quick chat, or do you want to go grab a coffee? Some I don't have to check in with too much because we're talking a lot. Like Alec and I are talking, you know, daily, you know. So it's probably more just talking about, oh, how you going with this? How you going with that? But then some of the other team members are doing, you know, they're focused because they've only been in real estate maybe 1 year or 2 years. And so we're just so focused on the skill set that you need to achieve in that next 6 months to then help them to the next phase.
And your recruitment, it sounds like you groom all your agents. You don't get necessarily $1 million agents that come in. You take it and make them become $1 million agents.
Well, you know what, Rexy? We're really fortunate to have Stasi as a client at Titanium, and I know Jeremy and Stasi have become great friends, and we've had some great success. And one thing I've noticed with the candidates that we represent to Stasi, it's not a traditional interview at all. And we've never had a candidate walk away and not want to work with Stasi. And it comes down to almost an interview for you, Stars, is almost like a listing presentation.
Yeah.
Like you have an entire presentation when you interview someone. Whereas 90% of real estate agents will do the same thing. Directors have been doing the same thing they've been doing for 5 years. Like, sit down, what have you listed? Tell me about yourself. Okay, cool, what for your job? Can you give us even like a bit of a live overview?
I can give you a
like,
little bit.
So you give a presentation to your prospective.
You know, we should do role play. You and Star should role play. Rex, you're interviewing Stasi.
I love role play.
You used to like a role play every now and then. Things have changed.
Moving on.
Yeah.
So what is this presentation?
All right. So pretty much what I'll do is exactly like if I went into a house, I'd have just a real honest conversation about, hey, look, you know, thanks for coming to visit me. Tell me what you want to achieve out of the meeting. You know, what you're looking for a new job. Tell me about it. Tell me where you see yourself. You know, why do you want to apply for this job? what does the best, office to work in, what's that environment look like for you? So then I can get a really good understanding if they're going to probably fit. And that will determine probably how long that meeting will go, without, not in a rude way, but whether that person's probably worth the values that we see. Okay,
What
well, this
values
is
do you
Woodards.
look for?
Definitely long term. I would definitely want people that are talking about where they see themselves in the next 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. If they're saying, the next couple of years I'd like to do this, and then I say, where else would you like to be from there? And they don't know, well then I'd probably know, okay, well, I don't know how long term this is. So that will depend on the role, not to be rude. If it's maybe a reception role, then I have no issue with that. If it's someone saying, it's an administrator role, I don't really have a problem with that. If it's someone saying, look, I'm getting into real estate, well, I have a big problem with that, because you can't see...
A few years.
The retention rate of entry level is quite low as well. You've got to be really particular with who you put on.
Yeah, so, and with the great fees that Titanium look after us on, I make sure that, we can definitely make sure that we can get the right people.
We're working on the fees. We're going to get some stuff from Stasi. But Stas, your whole method is, when you have a good agent in front of you, you don't ask them what they can bring you. You suggest and you provide them with not just data, but case studies of how people such as Alec have come into your business and how you've helped them become a hugely successful agent. So you almost flip that whole process on its head, and rather than just seeing what you can get from that agent, it's what you can give to them.
Yeah,
so can you talk us through that?
Yeah, so I'll give them a 90-day plan.
A 90-day plan?
Yeah, so the first 3 months.
This is in the interview, you do this as well.
Yeah, so I'll say to them, this is where we see the next 90 days. So if you join us, this is what we're going to be teaching you in the first 90 days. And what does
that look like?
Do you want to bring it out? No.
Do you have any examples? Could you show
there's
us?
something I prepared earlier.
There is. Wow.
Wow.
I laminated it because Rex and Chanell were telling me about how much they love lamination, so we made sure we got it.
We need a poll. Who watching right now has a laminator in their office? I'd really like to know what the statistics is.
You can come to
It's
Woodards
so much
Manningham.
more professional having it laminated than...
So, without boring everyone and your viewers, pretty much...
I think they'll be interested in this because...
I think, directors and particularly...
Yeah, so
directors.
I'd probably sit with them and give them a really good plan of where I'd see what tasks and activities they'd be doing for the first 90 days. And some of that will roll with admin tasks if you're working in a team. Because what you want is you want to get someone in your team who essentially is doing a lot of admin tasks straight away. Because, as a lead agent, you need people that can, are useful to you straight away, if that makes sense. So everything will run through with how to how to do files, how to do everything, and that will really start the first 90 days, and then we start getting into the prospecting platform, and go from there, and then talk about the next 90 to 120, 160, 180 days, and then when we start getting into months, we start looking towards the end of that year, and then 18 month plus where we think that we can get that agent to a level. But some people don't run on the exact same time frame. Some development's slower. Like I had a guy in my team that he saw this on my desk because I was getting everything ready today. And he said, I'm a little bit behind on this.
It's a good tool to have though, to track where you're at.
And he and it was just a reflection for him to know, okay, well look, I probably need to get this and this right in this next 3 months.
Starting in a role, especially a sales role, it's so difficult.
Well, it's so different because...
And so different. And you don't know where you're supposed to be at what interval. To have your boss spell it out for you.
Yeah.
Helps
and
hold you
laminate it as
accountable
well.
too.
Yeah.
But a majority of entry-level candidate staff, their reason for leaving, like particularly in sales, is that they don't have the training.
Yeah.
Why are you leaving? Well, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have the training. So joining Woodards Doncaster, it's not... I can only imagine that if someone doesn't work out, it's not because they're not trained. Because it's probably not the right industry.
But I'm probably going to work that out within that first 90 days. Because the tasks that I've got there, it starts to get to a level of where you've got a prospect and things like that. And as a director, you want to know, okay, well, do I have someone that's willing to pick the phone up, knock on a door, and especially as a sales agent, if they're hiring a PA or an associate, that's the first thing they're thinking of. Okay, I've got to train them this, but how can I get my return on investment?
Yeah.
So you know that you're interviewing how many sales guys all the time that want an assistant. Now, some are smart enough to understand what they need and what they don't, but the average salesperson will say, well, look, I'm not making any money out of them. But the reality is it's actually you're making a lot of money out of them because you've probably increased your listing volume because you've given them tasks to do that you weren't currently doing.
But not many people know what tasks, your sales agent goes, they've got a prospect. But the way you've spelt this out is so different.
Yeah.
And you've got very realistic 90 days, you know.
Well, if they don't know how to do that within 90 days and we're training them every day, then we'd start to understand they're probably not right for us, or vice versa. They might go, well, look, real estate's not for me. Like, I hate prospecting.
Yeah.
And you guys told me, you know, there's a bit of prospecting involved, but, you know, I'm having to make 30 connects on the phone. Like, I can't do that.
There's one thing with saying you'll do it, and there's another
Absolutely.
part of doing it, but it's not just doing it for a week, it's doing it every single day for the entirety of your career, and that's not for everybody, but it's hard to identify that when you're first meeting with someone.
Of course. And like, if I look at Alec, like he was like my pilot on this whole program. So,
and look, what a success story that is.
And he's done a lot of that himself as well. You know, but I think for me, it's a lot more of, okay, well, he's done an amazing job, but if he wasn't given the right structure, we've seen that 2 other places he probably wasn't able to flourish at all. Here he's been able to because he's had a clear plan. This is what it looks like. If you
so
can't
is that
do this,
why you think he didn't make it in the other companies?
Definitely.
Like it came down to a lack of mentorship and planning?
We had amazing people there to mentor him because they're big agents. They're amazing. And, you know, anyone who knows the agencies in my area know that nearly every agency has the number 1 agent of the year or number 1 director of the year in their offices.
Their franchise groups.
So, like the number 1 of those 2 major competitors that we've got, both their number 1 offices are in my market. So it's an extremely hard, tough market to play around in. So if you're going to...
And yet you guys won agent of the year.
Well, it just shows that what we're doing in our field, because we're definitely not the largest agent, we're a medium-sized business, we're definitely obviously the best in what we're doing. And that's all we're focused on. You know, if we can do our role right, and for me, I think medium's always going to be better than large. I haven't aspired to be large for a reason. I could have put more people on.
It's not always size; it's what you.
But
I
think
you do with it.
Is it?
Gee.
I meant to say it's not about size, about substance. But
it's definitely more about understanding. Okay, well, look, I can make, you know, good money as a sales agent. Like, I think the lowest volume agent, and we talk volume a lot in our business, we never really try and talk about money too much because I think volume helps everyone feel accountable and feels close. If you feel like, oh, this guy's writing $1 million and I'm only writing 400, it sounds better if you know he's sold 50 and I sold 20.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I know it sounds funny, but I've done a lot of psychology work on this to not just be all about money, because the reality is if you're money focused, you probably won't last long term. So we really break it into volume. And I think the lowest transactional volume in our office was 20 sales from one of our agents, and that's the lowest.
That's really strong.
Really strong.
So, you know, for me, that's what I want. I want people in our business that are going to make money.
Taken on,
trained. I've got a lady in my office, middle age. She started real estate late. She's been with us 5 years, and she's, you know, killing it. And the first 2 years was, you know, she was just trying to grind away as you do, but we really try to support her and bolt her into our business to go, okay, well, you know, number 1, we had no female agent at that time, which I thought was a massive advantage in real estate, which I know you'd probably agree.
No, it's half your office is female.
There's more females in my office than males. So that probably gives you a good understanding.
When you talk about, you know, you're hiring on attitude, and I think a lot of directors say that, what does that mean? Like, what are the soft skills particularly you want to identify in an interview?
I can give you a really good example of that. There's a guy in our business now who actually works in Alec's team, and the way he asked me for a job is he came to my house and knocked on my door.
How did he know where you live?
Because he lived in my street.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, he's borderline psychotic, but this makes sense now.
So he knocked on my door, and I think my wife at the time was like, oh my God, someone's at the front, like, get the door. And he had a resume in his hand, and he said, I live in your street, which I live at the bottom of a court, he lives in it. And he goes, I know who you are, and I've been following you. And he's like, I really want to get into real estate.
Sounds stalking.
Yeah. Alexander?
He's watching you guys over there.
So,
of course he's watching. He's watching every minute of this.
Yeah. But for me, like, you know, if you can come and knock on someone's door and ask them for a job in their business, then you can go knock on the next person's door and ask them, hey, are you thinking of selling? So, you know, that's probably one it's only happened to me once, but, you know, how can you say no when someone's coming to your house and knocking on your door and they're not in real estate and they're already showing skill sets far beyond what they've ever been taught to knock on the door? Like, you think about, like, I've obviously done a lot of door knocking in my time. I know the nervousness of walking to the door and you're looking around and you knock on the door and you're waiting, and I couldn't
shows
imagine.
Resilience. He's open to rejection. It's, you know, he's gone and knocked, like the humiliation that he could, like they're all the skills that you really need in real estate.
And especially going to a director's house. Like if you went to someone who doesn't know what door knocking is and they're like, oh, just send them another door knocker, fair enough. But when you go to a person who knows everything,
Did
I'm
he
like,
know that you know?
Well, I think he would have figured out, look, this guy knows what he's doing.
How old was he at the
100%
time?
he knows what
He was 20.
Wow, there you go.
Still with you now?
Still with us, yeah.
Fantastic.
So for me, like, I look at someone like that and I remember when I started real estate, what kind of things I had in me. And I'm like, yeah, this guy can definitely make it if we can show him the right skill sets. And like, I think he'll probably, not putting any pressure on him, but he'll probably transition out of Alex's team in that next 12 months. He listed another one this week. Like, he's listing on his own. He's doing absolutely everything in Alex's team. So his skill sets.
Alex not doing anything.
Yeah, well, he's in Perth.
Stars, if I had a high-performing agent that wanted to be represented to Woodards, for example, what sort of strategies would you have in place in order to attract them? So, we're talking about potentially a PA model, or say they're a $300,000 GCI writer. What are the tools in place you would have, the actual tools to make them a $500,000 GCI writer?
Well, what's going to happen is when you get to that 300 level, it's almost not about training them as an agent anymore, because it means they probably know what they're doing. They've probably transacted somewhere between 15 and 20 listings. So they actually know how to list a property, how to sell a property, all those basic things. So it becomes about volume. So how do you do volume? Well, you need assistance. So let's talk about what that looks like. And we'd start putting a plan in place about getting the right assistant for them. Mm-hmm. So, if they were a $350,000 or $300,000 writer, I'd sit down with them and say, I know that this is, I don't know if I'm going to reveal everything, but this is the assistant that you need. Yeah. So let's talk about how we can work in with getting someone from Titanium to come in. We'll put a plan in place for them and we'll help your business grow.
Do you fund that?
Yeah, we fund most of them.
Yeah.
Everyone's got like
different structures.
Yeah, the structure that we've got's pretty generic. Like, everyone's on the same thing, but there's two different structures. One's more of a funding PA option, or one's a higher commission rate option. So if you want to just run as a solo and you want to have a better fee, fantastic. If not, then you take the lower fee, but we'll fund the PAs. So for me, the big thing is about helping them grow. Yeah. Like, it's got to be from them. Oh, look, I'm writing 200. I know how to do this and this, but how do I get to the next level? Well, obviously we can show you that.
So you get him in, you train him, you make him a good agent, and then you help him with their growth as well.
Yeah, so the growth is a big thing. You've got to remember that a lot of people don't know how to grow. So, you could spend 10 years in real estate and still write $400,000. Because to grow, it doesn't become about the skill set as much. It's all about learning how you actually manage your time. So time management, we start doing a bit more of a course on that together. And I'll run that about, what does your day look like? How do you structure your day? This isn't good enough. We need to change this. So this isn't where you need to be doing your calls. This is where you need to be training your assistant. This is where
your training's really from start and just keeps going.
Yeah, but it's just holding their hand through that process because they haven't managed a person before. So
Which
what
is
do
the
they
hardest
know?
thing sometimes.
Yeah, so what do they know?
Yeah.
They're saying to me, oh, look, they're sick today. What do I do?
Yeah.
Because they don't know what to do for anything. So I need to guide them through that. Yeah. And that's really what they're using me as the director for. Like, give me that guidance of how you're going to help my business grow.
Yeah.
So, of course, we can help them with lead generating and all those things, but I know if I can get their structure right,
the rest will work.
Yeah.
Alec did amazing numbers with one assistant and then it's now just gone to another level by putting another one in his team. So by having that pod of 3, obviously we've got different skill sets that are getting used in that, but it allows him to be able to list virtually double the volume as what he was doing previously.
I think this is where a lot of directors go wrong, is that they have high-performing agents and then they just leave them to their own devices rather than going, okay, now you're at this level, who can we implement into your business within a business to give you more time? Because a lot of agents, when they get to that level, their reason for leaving is that they want balance back in their lives.
Of course.
So to have these strategies in place with different PAs that have different skill sets to alleviate some time from the agent is just such a huge benefit for retention in an organisation.
But I feel like it's also some agents, some directors or principals don't realise how to
They don't know
train
how
that.
to.
They know how to do it themselves,
Yeah.
and just know how to do it. They've never sat down to plan it out and teach it across someone and then work on that to make sure it works, because what you teach one person may not work with someone else.
Yeah, but like I didn't even know that either, to be honest. Like I started at 23 And then I was like, oh my God, like I've started this business.
But you've had some phenomenal trainers.
Yeah.
Like the agents you've worked at, like you've had, and your business partner's been around
and I
forever.
think that's what, by the time I got to late 20s, I'd kind of gone through that whole...
You have an amazing Botox person.
Yeah. That I started to realize, okay, well, this is where I'm finding my pains, how I've got to grow my business. I know what I need to do, but gee, I wish I had someone, because there was a lot of good agents that I had worked with, but they just probably weren't sat down and said, okay, well, look, you're struggling in these
time
points.
out, like to even laminate things, and you've got cue cards, and you've got a program in place. Like you've taken, most directors are too busy working or don't take the time out to actually put that effort into.
It's not even that they're too busy. I think that a lot of them become a little bit selfish, and I know a lot of directors that compete with their team. Rather than going, let me take a step back and then obviously, not obviously, but provide my team the skills and the training and the staff to take their businesses to the next level. But a lot of directors have that sort of selfish or ego mentality where it's they want to compete with their staff.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
that's where a lot of turnover happens. But you're doing almost the opposite and giving them all the tools they can to make their business within a business more successful. And it's a credit, and it shows in the results of the success in Woodards. What about culture, Stas?
Yeah.
Talk us through the culture of your team.
This is the one that I reckon everyone bangs on about, but no one really has. Everyone thinks their business, and you would know this heaps because you'd be employing people and then they think they've got a good culture, but they don't.
Yeah.
And everyone, like, without being rude, a lot of business owners think they have a good culture, but if you tear back the layers, it's really bad. So I think it's about the leadership. It doesn't, like, culture starts from the top, but it's got to be run by your second tier. And that's how I've always looked at it. And I use that a lot from sporting analogies that, you know, obviously they'll have like leadership groups and things like that. So obviously Alec is a massive leader in our business. So, you know, I know that Alec knows what the other businesses have done right and wrong. And I think that helps align the culture, because if someone is having a bad day, because it's not always going to be, you know,
sunshine and rainbows,
of course. And he'd probably be understanding and say, well, you know, when I was at X or Y, this is what would probably happen in this scenario. At least that, you know, this isn't on the table here. Let's get our head down. Let's get back to work. So he really drives the culture in that sense. And I think he probably is, you know, you should probably have him on the show, I think.
Yeah, we will.
Sorry he can't be here now. He's in Perth, but...
It's winning awards.
Yeah. But I think you'll get a lot out of seeing what his view on it is as well. But yeah, he really does run that culture in that sales team, because it comes from me, which I've passed to him, and then, you know, he's really on top of it because he's on the floor non-stop.
What I see of your team members, and I don't know if because they know we know each other, but they rave about your office. It's not, you know, it's culture within an office, and when you got your staff members or your team members talking so proudly about being part of this team, it's a reflection on yourself.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, I think the big thing is caring about them more than just
personally
work.
as well.
Like
the goal
it's not about work.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we go to do a job. I think when you're secure in your own business, and that's probably a fear that a lot of directors have, but when you know, okay, like I've had a business for 10 years now, it's in a good position. Okay, it's going to look after itself with a lot of those things. Of course, I have to still work hard, but let's just park the money for a moment, because that's not the be all end all. It's about the people. Because if I don't have the right people or I don't treat them well, they're going to end up leaving pretty quick. So if I can keep someone for 7 years instead of 2 years, then I know, because people's lives change. So I'm not expecting them to want to be in my business for 20 years. I think those days, unfortunately, have slowly transitioned out for a lot of
Are you making
people.
certain people you've taken on as cadets to partners now even? So.
Yeah, well, I think that's part of that transition of understanding, okay, well, what's your goal? And that's that 5-year planning, understanding, okay, because I need to know if someone's thinking in 5 years they want to be a partner in this business, well, then we need to start having the conversation about what you're actually bringing in. Because as you know, when you get to that kind of level, it does become about the finances. So unless you're at this kind of level, we probably can't have a conversation about the next step and that step and that. But if you get to this, then let's put it on the table and talk through it. So, you know, Alec wanted to always achieve that before 30. And, you know, he's 29 now. He'll be 30 this year. And he's been a partner just in 2 years. So, so, you know, his big thing was I wanted to get myself into a partnership before 30 and set himself up, which he's done. He's done a really good job at it.
Talk about 5-year goals a lot in your business, Stas. What's your 5-year goal? What's the plan for you? You're going to be 25 by the time you hit that 5-year goal.
21, nah, 5 years. Gee, I'll be 30. I'm 33 this month. So I'll be 38. I'll be close to 40. I have to ask Rex what that feels like.
I'll be close to 50.
I think it's just having a continuation of a good business. I know where I want to go on my rental space, which I've shared with both of you guys on the rental division in our business. But I know for the sales side, I've probably got an opportunity to bolt on a lot more partners through that transition. And 5 years is a long time. You know, if I look at what can be achieved in that time, I'd like to say that if we can get ourselves to a certain volume, but then carry in some partners, I think we'd do a great job at that. So yeah, definitely open to having more partners in our business, because I think that's how the retention gets created.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then having those partners with their own teams, those team members can then go, gee, okay, I want to get into sales once I leave this team, and then there's an opportunity for me to go partnership. And we've got an amazing business model, because we've got 2 directors almost at completely different age groups, which is really rare. You know, the average directors will all be very similar age, if that makes sense. Where you've got someone, you know, well into their 60s who wants to transition out in a period of time, and then you've got, you know, myself at 32 turning 33. So you've got yourself in a position where if you want to be long term, you know, there's going to be opportunity there for sure.
Yeah, great opportunities. Asked to cut it short. Sorry, producer's been rolling at me the whole.
I didn't even see it. Sorry, Chef.
He's been like
Stasi's talking too much.
Not at all. Stas.
You guys. We've spent too much time together in this show. But now we finish each other's sentences. Stas, absolute pleasure having you on.
Yeah, thank you so much
You're
for having
such an
me.
inspirational director.
Thank you.
I think a lot of agents and directors will get a lot from you. I love that you don't have any ego and you genuinely care about your team members.
Yeah, for
and like
sure.
I said, it's in return, it shows in the success
Really
of your
does.
business, and you should be so proud of yourself. It's such an accomplishment.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys.
well done.
Appreciate
Thank you for
it.
coming on.
Well
Thanks for
done.
having me on the show.
Such a pleasure.
All right, see ya.
Thank you so much for watching another episode of Real Estate Renovators.